Hey guys, so this is going to be the first video you're going to want to watch before watching any of your build videos. This will help you have all the necessary tools to help you assemble the cabinet with ease. I'm Eric with WAAT. I just want to go over a couple of tools that we like to use when we're building cabinets, and this will make things go, relatively smooth for you. First off here, we have two different style of countersinks. We normally use a number 6 countersink, even though we do use number 8 screws, but this makes sure that the screw has plenty of bite. We also want to set the depth of the countersink to not go the full length with the screw. That way this last little bit of the screw has plenty of bite to squeeze, the glue out that we want to see. So these are just the two different, styles that we use and the little bit of depth change. So this is a 2-inch screw, number 8. It uses a port fit end. These are great for when going through a double baffle and another piece of wood. You will need a longer screw to grab all of those pieces. This is 1.25 inches. This is typically the size that you would need just for general assembly of the cabinet on most of all of our designs. You could go up 1/4 inch if that's what you have riding around. It definitely will not hurt if you have a slightly longer screw. The next two things are a flush trim bit. You could use this once the cabinet is fully together. If you want to go around any hedges that protrude where corners meet, it's easier to just use this instead of spending a ton of time using a sander to sand those edges smooth. Then after you do that, we use a corner round over bit to round over all the exterior portions of the cabinet. Now keep in mind, sometimes setting the depth of this, you want to make sure that you're not going to be cutting into any screws that are on the edge of the board that will make filling, but sometimes it's, that'll blow out those edges. But just be wary of setting the depth of the bit to give you just the amount of round over that you're looking for without creating too much damage on those countersinks of those screws you put in. This is a right angle adapter. This comes in handy whenever you're finding yourself to you get in tight spaces, or you glued and screwed pieces together, not realizing you have some screws somewhere that you now need to get to. This will help you achieve that without much trouble. This is a hand router. This is what we use to route all the edges of the speaker cabinets once it's done. We also use a nice heavy hammer. This would be great for installing all your T-nuts into your baffle and for wherever feet may be, or your access panel T-nuts. We use two different styles of T-nut. There's ones that are really long that have nice 6 prongs on them. We typically use that for any type of baffle heavy driver installation. They can also be used on the access panels, but we typically use the smaller 4-prong ones for feet and access panel. We also have a dead blow hammer. You can also use a rubber mallet. Comes in handy when you're trying to put the sides or top on a cabinet where you're dealing with multiple edges trying to fit in to the data channel. So this, makes it to get some persuasion. You get it all seated down. It also sometimes comes in handy if you take your sander and you can sand the edges of the board, so that way they kind of don't get hung up on our corner when going into the data channel. So if you're having a hard time doing that, we normally will just take our random orbital sander and kind of go on the edges of all those pieces, and it kind of makes that top go down a little bit easier if you're having trouble. We use Titebond 3. We like Titebond 3 because it is waterproof. Most of our cabinets are being used outdoors, so you want something that's going to stand up to the water. Also, wood glue is really easy to work with and easy for cleanup when glue squeeze that comes out of that. There are other options out there that people use. Some people use expandable glue. We don't like that, but other people have used it with great success. So, use whatever glue you're comfortable using. Just make sure it's right for your application. We also like to use this gravity fed glue pot. It makes it easier to getting the glue into the dado channel and not having to tip and squeeze and, dealing with a bunch of air pockets there. And then we use these silicone wood glue brushes to help spread all the glue on all 3 sides of the dado channel, so you have a nice tight seal and a nice glue squeeze out. Also, these are great, when you can just, with the glue dries on them, you can just peel it out, but it does make it cleanup easier if you just wash them out with water when you're done. But if not, you can peel them out of there. Also, this is the type of wood filler we use. It's just a powder and you mix it with water. Granted, getting the consistency just right takes a little bit of practice, but it basically starts to kick off. So once you added the water and get the mixture, you know, you can't then add water to it, you know, after it's been a few minutes. So, but this stuff dries really hard. It is relatively inexpensive. You don't have to worry about it drying out. So we really like to use this. And another great tool to have is an 18 gauge brad nailer. This would be great for attaching the two double baffles together instead of using screws. And also this would be an appropriate time to use for all the little bracing that go on the sides of the Buy Edition instead of having to use screws. But we do have screw holes there in case you don't have this, or you can just use those screw holes as guides of where you put the brad nail. All right, also one of these large clamps might be good when you're trying to put the edge or the outside pieces of your cabinet on. You know, if the board is kind of oversticking the edge, you know, you can squeeze that to make sure that these pieces aren't sticking out where they shouldn't be. All right, thanks for watching. If you guys have any further questions, reach out to us directly and we'll be happy to assist you in your next video.